The room was quiet, but the tension was loud. Daniel sat near the window, looking outside, watching people pass by as if they were living in another world. His hands were calm, resting on the table. His face showed nothing, no anger, no fear, no defense. Across from him stood Mark. Mark's voice was sharp. His words were fast, heavy, and full of frustration. "You always do this," Mark said. "You never respond. You never fight back. You just sit there like nothing matters." Daniel stayed silent. Mark took a step closer. "Do you think you're better than me?" he asked. "Do you think staying quiet makes you strong?" Daniel slowly lifted his eyes and looked at Mark, not with anger, not with pride, but with stillness. For a few seconds, nothing happened, and in that silence, something powerful existed. Most people believe strength is loud. They believe power means reacting fast, speaking louder, hitting back harder. But Daniel had learned something different. Years ago, Daniel was not like this. He used to react to everything. Every insult felt personal. Every opinion felt like an attack. Every argument turned into a war. And every war left him tired, broken, and empty. There was a time when Daniel believed that if he didn't react, he would lose. Lose respect, lose control, lose himself. Until one day, he lost everything because he reacted. That day changed him. Mark didn't know that story yet. Mark only saw silence and misunderstood it as weakness. "You know what?" Mark said angrily. "People walk over you because you allow it." Daniel finally spoke slowly, softly. "No," he said. "People stop controlling me because I don't react." Mark laughed. "That sounds like an excuse." Daniel stood up calmly. His voice remained steady. "Let me tell you something," he said. "There is a difference between being quiet and being powerless." Mark crossed his arms. "Then explain it." Daniel looked away for a moment, then back at Mark. "When you react without thinking," Daniel said, "you give control to the person who provoked you. When someone can control your emotions, they control you." The room felt heavier now, not because of anger, but because of truth. Mark didn't answer immediately. Daniel continued. "I used to react to everything, and every reaction drained me. I was always angry, always tired, always chasing the last word." He paused. "Silence saved me." Mark frowned. "Silence doesn't solve problems." Daniel nodded slowly. "True," he said, "but reacting emotionally creates more." Daniel stepped closer, calm, grounded, unshaken. "The strongest person in the room," he said, "is not the one who shouts, but the one who can stay calm while being tested." Mark looked at Daniel differently now, not convinced, but curious. And curiosity is the first crack in resistance. Daniel turned toward the window again. "There's something you need to understand," he said quietly. "Not every battle deserves your energy. Not every insult deserves your voice. And not every reaction proves your strength." Mark said nothing. For the first time, Daniel's silence wasn't ignored. It was felt. And in that moment, the fire inside Mark had no fuel. Because fire needs reaction to survive. Without it, it dies. The first test. A few days passed. Daniel tried to remember Michael's words, but life did not slow down for him. One morning, at work, something happened. Daniel had worked hard on a small project. He stayed late, fixed mistakes, and tried his best. When the meeting started, his manager spoke about the project, but instead of praising Daniel, he criticized it. In front of everyone, Daniel felt his chest tighten. His heart started beating faster. His mind began shouting, "This is unfair. Say something. Defend yourself." He looked around. Some people avoided eye contact. Others watched quietly. This was the moment. Daniel felt anger rising like fire. His mouth wanted to speak. His body wanted to react. Then, suddenly, he remembered Michael's voice from the calf. "The moment you don't react, you take control." Daniel took a slow breath. Then another. He said nothing. Not because he was weak. Not because he agreed. But because he chose control. After the meeting, Daniel felt confused. Part of him felt calm. Another part felt defeated. That evening, he met Michael again. Michael looked at him and asked gently, "Tell me, what tested you today?" Daniel explained everything. The criticism, the embarrassment, the anger he swallowed. Michael listened quietly. Then he smiled. You passed your first test. Daniel looked surprised. But I felt bad, Daniel said. I wanted to react. Michael nodded. Of course you did. That's human. He leaned forward and said calmly, power is not the absence of emotion. Power is choosing what to do with it. Michael continued, when you don't react immediately, you create space. In that space, wisdom grows. Daniel was silent. For the first time, he realized something important. Not reacting didn't make him smaller. It made him stronger. Michael added softly, tomorrow, people may forget the criticism, but you will remember that you stayed in control. That night, Daniel slept differently. Not because life was easier, but because he was changing. And this was only the beginning. The silent strength. Days passed after that moment in the office. Daniel did not become a different person overnight. He still felt anger. He still felt pressure. But something inside him had changed. One morning, Daniel arrived early. The office was quiet. No voices, no tension, just the sound of his own breathing. He sat at his desk and remembered Ethan's words. Not reacting doesn't mean you are weak. It means you are choosing peace over chaos. That day, difficult email arrived. Harsh words, blame, accusations. The old Daniel would have reacted immediately, typing fast, defending himself, trying to prove he was right. But this time, Daniel paused. He closed his eyes. He took one deep breath, then another. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he asked himself a simple question. What is the best response? Not the fastest one. Hours later, he replied calmly, clear, respectful, short, no emotion, no fire. Something unexpected happened. The situation ended. No argument, no escalation. Daniel felt something new. Not excitement, not pride. Control. That evening, Daniel met Ethan again, sitting on the same bench. I didn't react today, Daniel said quietly. Ethan smiled. That's how strength grows. Silently. Daniel looked confused. But people think I'm weak when I stay quiet. Ethan shook his head. Only loud people think silence is weakness. Strong people understand its power. He continued. When you react, others control you. When you pause, you are in control. Daniel listened carefully. Most people are slaves to their emotions, Ethan said. Anger pulls them. Fear pushes them. But the calm mind chooses. That night, Daniel went home and reflected. He realized something important. The world didn't change. People didn't change. He changed. And that made all the difference. From that day on, Daniel practiced one rule. Pause first, respond later. Not to win arguments, not to look smart, but to protect his peace. And slowly, people started treating him differently. Not because he spoke louder, but because he spoke less and better. The quiet power of self-control. The next morning, something felt different. Daniel woke up before his alarm. The room was quiet. No rush. No anger waiting for him. For the first time in years, his mind was not replaying old arguments. He remembered what Adam had said the night before. Not reacting doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're in control. Daniel sat on the edge of his bed and took a deep breath. Slow, intentional. That breath felt powerful. A test comes unexpectedly. Later that day, Daniel went to work. The office was the same. The people were the same. But he was not. Around noon, his manager called him into a meeting. The tone was sharp. The words were unfair. You missed the deadline, the manager said loudly. You're not focused. This is becoming a pattern. Daniel felt it. That familiar heat in his chest. That urge to defend himself. To raise his voice. To explain everything. Old Daniel would have reacted immediately. But this time, he paused. Just for 2 seconds. He looked down at his hands. Still, calm. Then he spoke slowly. I understand your concern, Daniel said. I'll take responsibility and fix it. The room went quiet. The manager blinked, surprised. No argument, no excuses, no emotional explosion, just calm strength, power without noise. After the meeting, Daniel walked outside. His heart was beating fast. but not from anger, from control. He realized something important. When you don't react, you don't lose energy. You keep it. Reacting had always drained him, left him tired, ashamed, regretful. But silence gave him power. That evening, he met Adam again. This time, Daniel spoke first. I didn't react today, he said quietly. It was hard, but it worked. Adam smiled, not proudly but knowingly. That's the beginning, he said. When you stop reacting, you stop being controlled by others. The inner shift. Over the next few days, Daniel practiced not reacting to small things, not reacting to comments, not reacting to negativity. Each time, it felt uncomfortable, but each time, it felt stronger. He noticed something else too. People changed around him, not because he spoke louder, but because he spoke less. Not because he demanded respect, but because his calm created respect. Adam explained it one night as they walked under the city lights. Most people are loud because they are weak inside, Adam said. Calm people don't need to prove anything. Daniel nodded. For the first time, he wasn't trying to win arguments. He was winning himself. A deeper understanding. One night, Daniel asked a question that had been growing in his mind. What if someone disrespects you? What if they cross a line? Adam stopped walking. He looked at Daniel carefully. Not reacting doesn't mean accepting disrespect, he said. It means choosing when and how to respond. He continued. Reaction is emotional. Response is intentional. Those words stayed with Daniel. Reaction was automatic. Response was powerful. The silent strength begins to show. Weeks passed. Daniel felt lighter, clearer, more confident. He was no longer afraid of conflict, because he was no longer controlled by it. He realized something profound. The loudest person in the room is usually the weakest, and the calmest is the strongest. That night, as Daniel lay in bed, he smiled, not because life was perfect, but because he was finally in control of himself. And that changed everything. The final change. The sun was rising slowly. The city was quiet. Mark was sitting on a bench, looking at the sky. David came and sat next to him. For a long time, they said nothing. Only silence. Only breathing. Then David spoke, slowly. David, you look different now. Mark smiled. Not a big smile. A calm smile. Mark, I feel different. David looked at him. David, what changed? Mark took a deep breath. Mark, my attitude. David nodded. He was waiting for this answer. Mark looked at his hands. Hands that once shook with fear. Hands that once felt weak. Now, they were calm. Mark, I used to blame everything. My past, my country, my money, my mistakes. He paused. Mark, but one day understood something simple. David listened carefully. Mark, I cannot control everything, but I can control my attitude. Silence again. David finally spoke. David, most people never learn this. Mark looked at him. Mark, I know. That's why most people stay stuck. He stood up slowly. Mark, I stayed stuck for years, not because I was weak, but because my attitude was wrong. They started walking. The street was empty. The morning air was fresh. David, what did you change first? Mark thought. Mark, I stopped complaining, even when life was hard. David, that's not easy. Mark, no, but it's powerful. He continued. Mark, when I stopped complaining, I started thinking. When I started thinking, I started growing. They reached a small bridge. Mark stopped and looked at the water. Mark, I told myself, if I fall, I learn. If I fail, I improve. If I suffer, I become stronger. David smiled. David, that's a strong mindset. Mark, no, that's the right attitude. Mark turned to David. Mark, I didn't change my life in one day. I changed my attitude in one moment. David looked surprised. David, one moment? Mark, yes. The moment I stopped asking, why is life unfair? And started asking, what can I do now? They walked again. Slow steps. Calm steps. David, and now, Mark smiled again. Mark, now, I wake up with purpose. I work even when I feel tired. I believe even when I feel afraid. He stopped. Mark, My problems didn't disappear, but my fear did. David took a deep breath. David, I think many people need to hear this. Mark nodded. Mark, yes. That's why I share my story. Mark looked straight ahead. Mark, attitude is everything. It decides how you react. It decides how long you stand. It decides who you become. He spoke slowly. Mark, you can have no money, but the right attitude. You can have no support, but the right attitude. You can start from zero with the right attitude. David stopped walking. David, what would you say to someone watching this right now? Mark turned toward him. Mark, I would say this. He paused. Mark, don't wait for life to change. Change your attitude, and life will follow. Mark looked at the sky one last time. Mark, you don't need motivation every day. You need discipline. You need belief. You need the right attitude. David smiled. David, this is not the end, is it? Mark smiled back. Mark, no, this is the beginning. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying until the end. Remember this. Your past does not define you. Your problems do not control you. Your attitude decides everything. Until the next video, take care, stay strong.